Next strategy, the Survive and Thrive Guide. We actually launched this last week. I'm telling you about it again today because it's chock full of great information. If you want to know how to survive, retain, level up, and thrive, go check it out. Go download covidsurviveandthrive.com, and you can download this free report, and you can get all the strategies that we're talking about. So we've got questions. So we should keep the pay-per-click the same as it was in February with no change to strategy. My recommendation, if your office is closed, is to turn off your paid media. If you're doing emergencies, refunnel all of your paid media towards emergencies. If you're not doing emergencies, then kill your paid media. Paid media is a very quick on and off game, right? If you've already got a great campaign running and you know what it needs to run, it's going to change a little bit month to month. But largely, if you turn it off for 30 or 60 days and you turn it back on, you're going to be pretty close to where you left off at. So I would recommend turn that off. SEO is a long game. This is a long Christmas break for a lot of dentists. We don't turn off SEO over long extended holidays. We've got some dentists that shut down for a whole month. They take 2 weeks vacation and then they're off for 2 weeks at Christmas and they're closed for the whole month of December. And we don't turn off SEO for them. I think that's a big mistake to start turning off. Those are some of the essential pieces of marketing that I'm talking about. Somebody's raised their hand here. Natalie, if you want to chat in the box there, whether the Q&A or the chat box, please, we'll get the questions answered for you. Your organic SEO is your biggest producer of new patients. And that thing takes a lot of energy to ramp up, and it's very momentum driven. Another anonymous question: have they changed what the Paycheck Protection loan monies can be spent towards? Can I loan money towards marketing with the understanding that I end up paying back at 1%? No. The Paycheck Protection loan and forgiveness portion can only be spent on a limited number of things. Now, if you've got some dry powder in reserve, AKA cash on the sidelines, and you spend the PPP loan on all the things that you normally would be spending your own money on, then you can go spend your own money on whatever you need to do to spend your own money on. If that's marketing, if that's a new boat, whatever it is, right? So it all depends on your particular situation. What's your cash flow? How much cash do you have on the sidelines? What's your cash burn? What are you projecting this crisis to look like? I can tell you what we're projecting right now, and where we're looking at this macroeconomically for the nation, as well as some specific hotspots that we've got a lot of clients in to pull out of. Generally, my outlook, I will say, has been better than a lot of the dentists I've talked to. This is I use the word remarkable, but it's not a good thing. This is, anybody in here hear my story about my grandma 2 weeks ago? Raise your hand if you heard my story about my 100-year-old grandma. Anybody? Oh yeah, okay, we got some people. Yeah, so for those of you that haven't, I'll tell the story real quick. Love it. I called my 100-year-old grandma. She's 99. She turns 100 in August. And I said, hey, Grandma, you need me to bring you anything? She lives right up the road here. And I said, you need me to bring you anything? What can I do for you? And she goes, oh no, honey. I went down to JC, the Kroger supermarket, grocery store, whatever. I just got what I needed today. I said, Grandma, you're 100 years old. This virus, you're like its ideal candidate. And she was like, oh, honey, I've lived through worse. And that was, I actually got to FaceTime with her today. My mom was over there in full mask and face gear and all this crap. And we got to FaceTime for a little bit. And I think for Easter, we're going to go over there and have an Easter egg hunt in the backyard, and Grandma can sit on the porch and watch. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Yeah, your specific situation is going to dictate a lot of this. You got to understand how much cash is on the sidelines and what's your cash burn. How long are you anticipating this thing to last? And what kind of rebound do you want to have when you come out of this? Once you spend your capital, once you spend your money, it's gone. It's gone forever. It's not coming back. And you need to be judicious about where you spend and invest your money and make sure you're doing it wisely. And if it all depends on your outlook and your type of practice and your market area. I can tell you Louisville is set to peak April 21st for COVID-19 infections. That's a big factor, right? Cities are going to open back up based around when their peak infection rate is after a certain amount of time after their peak infections. That's all part of this magic formula. It's not really magic. It's just thinking through all these different variables. New York City has already peaked. Louisville is set to peak here in a week or 10 days. So that all that weighs in. And you just got to, this is a time of, there's so much fear and uncertainty, and you are the captain of your ship. Nobody's going to make the decision for you. You gotta make that decision. You're the captain, and the captain always knows. You've got to go find the advice and get the counsel and talk to people that you say, I think that person is really smart and they've got some good advice and I like what they're saying. You got to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And when you do that and you're able to start putting these plans in place, when we start breaking this nut open, we find out that a lot of the freezing, a lot of times when we get frozen, it's because we have complex problems to solve. When you break apart the problem into its individual pieces, generally each piece is pretty simple to solve. And when you can solve the individual pieces, you've solved the whole problem. So kind of what I started off this webinar talking about is, the COVID-19 crisis. That's the whole big predicament that we're in. But there's all these little individual pieces underneath of it. When do I need to get the loan? How much cash burn do I have? How much cash is on the sidelines? When am I going to reopen? How am I going to reappoint these patients? Right? And we got all these things, all these individual tactics that we have to solve for. And once we go through, run the gamut and solve them all, the problem's over. Right? We've conquered the problem. And that's all we're trying to do here, is to break down these complex problems and solve them. I hope that was helpful. I know I kind of got off on a rant there a little bit. I want to tell you a little bit about, if you're a current client, the stimulus program that we're doing with all of our current clients. Some of you have already seen part of this. I'm just going to recap this and skim through this. There's 5 things we're doing if you're a current client, and there's going to be more coming. This is not an exhaustive or the end of the list. We're going to be mailing out letters to your patients that are scheduled and helping you reschedule these guys. We're going to get your whole team enrolled on Success Academy and Dental Intel. Free right now. Free Dental Intel and your entire team enrolled for this crisis. You've got to be working on leveling up your team. We're going to get your social media cranking. We've also got a virtual smile assessment solution. You've heard about the trend of teledentistry. We're going to give you our teledentistry solution as well as the strategy guide behind it. Social media content calendar, of course, to begin posting. We don't want to be dwelling on this COVID-19 stuff until the COVID-19 stuff is over. We need new stuff to talk about that's going to engage and be interesting. And then our 20-week 4-phase slingshot back marketing plan. I'm going to be diving into detail next week. Next week, I'm going to have Trent Arkema, our VP of marketing, on this webinar with me, and we're going to be diving into that. So we'll cover that more next week. Now, if you're a future client, we're offering the same pieces to you. We're going to get all this going for you. Here's the reality of the situation that most dentists are in right now. Coming out of this crisis, it's going to be tricky. You're going to be in a bind. If you've shut down all your marketing, you're going to have the same results of dentists that shut down in 2008. You're going to have empty chairs, a schedule that looks like Swiss cheese, and 38% lower collections for 3 to 6 months longer. Now, the 3 to 6 months and 38% was the 2008 recession data. My projection is that number is going to be low. This residual coronavirus that's going to continue to flare up and have patients on edge is going to mean that revenue is going to be down more for longer for those that don't prepare. Realize in your market, the first mover advantage is in full swing. Somebody in your market is going to get ahead of this thing and is going to grab a huge percentage of the patients coming out of this crisis. And that's why we have created this plan. We're going to carry you on our back until this crisis is over. And we're going to get you dental intel for free. You can't get that anywhere else. You can't go to dental intel and get it for free. They'll laugh at you. We're going to get you hooked up with it for free. If you need help, we've pre-populated a bunch of reports in dental intel. Start going through your numbers. Success Academy combined with dental intel is where the magic happens. That is going to be your tool. It's going to give you those gauges. It's going to give you your indicators as to how your practice is doing as you're trending through. If your indicator is, does my bank account have enough cash in it? You generally don't know if you have or don't have enough until it's a big problem, until you're about to crash into that mountain, right? We don't want that. We need advanced indicators. We need leading metrics of where my cash is going to be. And the 5 A's are going to give you those leading indicators to show you, oh, wow, why did Cindy only appoint 20% of new patients last week? True story, just happened a month ago. One of our doctors, the new patients dried up literally overnight. We get a call and it says, what's going on with my marketing? And we started looking into it. And we realized, I mean, this was just in a period of 1 week. 1 week, this was really, really fast. And we're monitoring calls on a daily basis going through this. And we realized at the end of about 4 or 5 days of the week that one of their front office staff, the main person that answers the phone, their appointing rate has dropped from 78% down to 20 in 1 week. And we're like, what's going on here? And we start talking to her and we're talking to the doctor and we start to get this information. Her husband just filed for divorce against her. Awful. I mean, terrible situation. And she was bringing some stuff into the office and it wasn't the marketing. It sometimes is the marketing. In this case, we got to have these leading dials. If we don't have gauges around this stuff, how many weeks would that have gone on for before the doctor would have gone, whoa, what's going on here? Where are my new patients at? You got to have your indicators on this stuff. Here's what's going to happen coming out of this COVID crisis. I'm going to predict it right now. Remember I said this. We're going to start up. All these practices are going to open back up. And the tide is going to go out. And all the practices that haven't prepared and have no strategy in place to reopen, we're going to see who's swimming naked. Great Warren Buffett quote. And what this is saying is when the tide goes out and you really get to see who's prepared and who's got their shorts on and who's just been out there lollygagging and they were running it right on the edge and they're out there skinny dipping. This is going to be the major equalizer in a lot of market areas across the country. This is a gold rush as well as a major churn problem if you don't get out ahead. I talked a little bit about the beginning. I want to represent the idea. I want to suggest there are those that are saying that there's pent up demand for dentistry. And I would suggest that that is not the case. For the majority, 90%, 85% of dentists, there's not going to be pent up demand for your dentistry, for your services. The exclusions to that I see We have implant doctors right now that are still doing consults and still collecting full fee by teledentistry for doing all on 4, all on 6, large restorative full arch cases. No clinical. They're doing the consults virtually, full fee, mail in your check, and we'll get you booked in as soon as we reopen. Now, they're not doing x-rays. They're not doing CAT scans. They're just doing a simple qualification form. The doctors that are killing this right now, and this has been my conversation with them, because I've had some doctors that had some trepidation around this. I can't diagnose virtually. And I say, yeah, I get it, but that's not what we're trying to do. I had a conversation with one of them, and I said, of all the patients, this doctor saw 200-something patients last year for treatment, and they had 76 move forward with a full or a double arch. I said, of all those treatments you did, how many could you not help? How many of the patients could you not help? Clinically, after you did your exam and after you took a CAT scan, how many were not candidates for treatment? And he said 2. 2 out of 200, 1%. And I said, okay, and what was wrong with those 2? And he said they both had uncontrolled diabetes and they were both smokers. Well, there we go. We can do a pre-screen virtually. Do you have diabetes and do you smoke? You may not be a candidate. Here's what we can do, but I don't want to take your money today. I'm not going to take your money until I can be very confident that we can help you. And I'll have time open once we reopen and once we work through our back queue of patients that are in line. We'll get you in and we'll help you. I promise you that, right? This is the language to the patients. So it's a different model. It's a different paradigm. I said in the beginning, is everything going to be like it was? No, it's not. But is everything going to be okay? Yeah, everything's going to be okay. We just got to make sure that we're evolving.